G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is a Saiga 12. This is a Russian-designed shotgun, and it comes to you in Fallout 4 in the form of a highly customizable standalone weapon, like super highly customizable. There's stacks to get through here, so I might leave a little bit of an annotation or just a little bit of below to get into the action because there's quite a lot of stuff to go over. This is part of the Russian Recon pack, so it comes with the same thing as the SVD, the PP19 that I did a while ago, as well as a few others, and it makes a decent addition because all of the weapons in that pack are doing something quite different. And obviously this is the shotgun, and it is a shotgun that I recognize from other games. It was in Battlefield 3 and 4, so cool stuff. Let's get into the attachments. First of all, we've got the receivers. We've got a light bolt, heavy frame, sort of reworded stuff that you'd find from the vanilla sort of game lineup of legendaries. You've got improved mechanism modernized, which gives it a nice tactical rail, I guess, which is good for mounting attachments on, but if we chuck that on advanced, that seems to get better damage. We can go reinforced, and fast mechanism gives us the fires as fast as you can pull the trigger, which might be a little bit much for recoil, but going for full damage per shot here, this thing will also give us range, which will help us reach out and make the weapon slightly better in general. Reaching out to that medium range for a shotgun seems to be a fairly good idea, and we can make the barrel long. We can modernize it a little bit. Obviously, modernize just means, look, tactical rails, put some laser sights, put some reflex sights, maybe even foregrips on it. You can also have long variants of that, and an AK looking barrel, but it'd have to be wide to allow for the shotguns there. To the untrained eye, that looks pretty much like an AK-47 here, but we know better than that. And if you don't worry, I'll keep you secret. Next, moving on to the grip, we can give ourselves a comfort grip here, which makes it slightly more modernized looking and better for human hands, so synths need not apply to this weapon, I suppose. Now, going for the magazines, we've got a 10-round magazine now, and you can have a 5-round magazine, which wouldn't recommend for full auto. Good point, Mr. Magazine. Yes, the 26-round magazine is great because it'll give you a big old ammo capacity, but they will reload very, very slowly. I've tested this a little bit prior to recording this, so yeah, it's a decent ammo capacity, but reloading will have to be more of a tactical thing. If we get into the middle of a fight with and have to reload, it's going to take a little bit to get this thing ready to go again. You can chuck on some reflex sights, including a Basker, an American one, and another American one, and it goes all the way along this. You can have the weird kind of mounts here for the Russian scopes, but that kind of doesn't work when we've got a tactical rail at the top. So maybe if you want to use the American or the tactical rail based ones, which have a scary red lens, I guess that means it's trying to indicate there that it is supposed to be, I guess, holographic, and then you can go ahead and do that. We'll grab the basket on this one because I tend to gravitate towards that side of weapons like this. Now we can chuck a choke on to increase the spread or decrease the spread of the pellets, making it slightly better at range, and in turn we get more accuracy and range out of this, and that seems like a good idea. You can also put a muzzle brake to control the recoil, so perhaps if you're using that Jacob's weapon where you fire as fast as you can pull the trigger, that one might be useful for that. So at close range you can be like a shredder and you won't have to be penalized too much for recoil. And you can also put a suppressor on, which we'll go ahead and give a go on a different one, but for this one we'll just leave the choke on that. Legendary effect is there if you need it. We'll move on from that though. You can have a flashlight or a laser sight, which improves accuracy slightly. Helpful in Vats, I suppose, if you want to squeeze every little bit of accuracy you can out of this. Flashlight is there because, it's awesome. Shotguns, zombies with a flashlight on the bottom. That's a good mix right there. So find yourself a pack of feral ghouls and you won't need to use your Pip-Boy light anymore. Very immersive. You can change the stock from polymer to wooden to metal stock, and with a tactical stock, which looks more like, I guess, an M4 stock. The metal stock looks kind of cool though. So you'd see out of an AK-74U back in Battlefield 3, that kind of stock, but says it looks uncomfortable, so yeah, let's not do that to poor Winter. Her shoulder sprees sore enough from firing guns all day in Fallout 76, especially when she got to fire the fixer. And you can change the color of the receiver slightly. It's a pretty, I guess, subtle change, so we'll leave that as is. A damage modifier, which you can go from negative 60% to plus 100% in 20% increments, so if the weapon isn't quite doing it for you, or if you feel like you need just a little bit more punch out of your thing, then you can grab on that. And you can change the color of the polymer, so if you want to match this with, I guess, the wood, we could go tan or maybe olive, but I'm colorblind, so they may not be matching at all. And you can change it from semi-automatic to automatic. It does make it a little bit more difficult to control due to the rate of fire, but it'll increase the DPS without giving you a penalty, which is kind of interesting. So let's go the automatic shotgun variant of this. And you can change the types of ammo. The 12 gauge buckshot is what we use normally. 20 gauge does slightly less damage and spreads it all over more projectiles, so you probably get soaked up a lot by, I guess, energy or damage resistance, so not a great pick. But if you're using explosive with this, the extra pellets will help that explosive damage kind of stack and give you heaps more. It also increases your range, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, maybe at a certain range this thing would be slightly better than a buckshot, but you always want to go for a buckshot because the less shotgun rounds you fire, the better. You can also have armor piercing flechettes, which will help you pierce through armor. Will penalize your damage a little bit, but heavily armored targets will take more damage. You can have a slug in this as well. We might chuck a scope on one of the Saigas and use it as a slug thrower. That'd be kind of awesome. You can also get Dragon's Breath, which gives it a little bit of an incendiary legendary effect. And frag rounds. You may be banned from the server for using these. That's giving me those Battlefield 3 moods. So maybe we'll chuck that on with something else. But for now, we'll just leave this on the old standard buckshot. And you can change the emissive, which changes the color of the laser sight. Let's make that red. And you can change the reticle of your reflex sight to a circle, a dot, a holographic, a separated circle, a circle again, a plus, an X, a T, a large T, 3 dots, triangles, the works. Let's go for that one. A yellow plus. Why not? That's all of the attachments. Okay, I'm going to create a couple more of these, and I'll see you where we usually shoot stuff. Also, changing the ammunition changes the name of the thing in some cases. So you've got 20 there. Obviously, the S is there for suppressor. So there's a cool dynamic naming system going on here, which is really good attention to detail. Ah, yes. Welcome to Let's Destroy My Aim by using Vats all the time. This is what the Saiga looks like in first person. You can see that little cross reflex sight we've got on it. Looks pretty good. And here's a bunch of other Saiga 12s that I made. This one's got a suppressor. I believe it's got Dragon's Breath. This one has a scope and a suppressor firing the slug rounds. This one fires explosive rounds. I put a small mag in this so I wouldn't be tempted to use it all the time. Also, Winter's got some leggings on. You know, any goth chick worth her salt is gonna have some fishnets around somewhere. That's just kind of what they wear, right? I don't know. They're rare as hen's teeth in Australia, so we'll just see how we go. They may exist. They may be as rare as unicorns. Anyways, so the thing about this weapon is that it is automatic, and it fires fast, which is great, right? And it does a decent amount of damage. It doesn't feel like I'm shooting them with a wet fart. We're hitting them with a very spiky poo noodle. Those things hurt. But what you can do to make this thing fire faster is just spam on the trigger. And yeah. This thing doesn't have the super fast mechanism on it, so I'm not really quite sure why I'm allowed to do this. Perhaps it's a little bit of an oversight, but regardless of that, if I want to play this thing right and use it honorable, I'll just hold down the trigger as I go along. Let's go ahead and use the Dragon's Breath rounds. Now, I'm wondering if this thing... Yeah, it just seems to have the incendiary legendary effect on it, so it doesn't have that kind of realistic spitting fire as you're firing it. I'm guessing if I were to hit this guy from all the way back here, he'd still go on fire, which is, you know, I don't think buckshot is quite strong enough to carry fire like an incendiary bullet like that. There's just not a lot of real estate you can plug some incendiaries into, unless I'm wrong about that, which I might be. Anyways, here's the slug. We're hitting them with all of the damage in one projectile, so you'll find that if you hit an armored target, and I deliberately made this semi-auto so I could get the sniper knockdown, right? Or to test whether I could get it, and it seems to have been granted, but this one I can't spam the trigger on, so maybe it's got something to do with the automatic barrel using that particular receiver. But that's something to take note of if you want to push this thing's DPS higher to what was probably thought up of when this thing was being edited in the weapon form, so that's okay. You can snipe with this thing, and it appears to be a hit scan slug, which is slightly unrealistic, but for ease of use, I guess this is as good as an SVD as a sniper at this point. See, I'm thinking the way to do slugs is you get a whole lot of damage at range with a shotgun, but you need to have the bullet velocity not be a lot, or have a slightly bigger range penalty than you would with other things. Otherwise, you know, you could just use a Saiga and put different receivers and different ammo bits of it, and it'll perform better than an SVD, and it probably does actually at this point. So, yeah. It's kind of hard making the non-hit scan projectiles because you got to make them missiles, and then tweaking the speed on them I've found to be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but we'll move on regardless. Weird Pip-Boy light. Okay, to demonstrate the power of this thing with the slugs and the sniper, I guess, setup, well, we just made that guy pirouette like a figure skater, so that's pretty awesome. We've got a bunch of things around. Swan's going to go ahead and kill some Rust Devils, so we'll give him a hand or a slug, or not really him a hand, more like these guys a slug. Just a little bit of extra lead. There we go. Now with that all out of the way, we should get the 4.4 times multipliers here, and this thing with its massive ammo capacity would pretty much be able to one mag him if I actually bothered to reload before engaging him. Now he's seemed to have aggroed something else down there, just a random ghoul. He hasn't noticed it yet, which means I can still get the criticals. Yeah, okay. So it's powerful, really, really strong, and keep in mind that this thing hasn't been upgraded with any extra additional damage. It's not listed here, but if I had have attached something, it would have been, but 671. That's pretty high, isn't it? That's up there, but that's kind of the damage bonus you get out of a slug, you see. All of that bullet, all of that damage concentrated into one round rather than spread around heaps means it's going to do so much better against things that, you know, would rather shrug off your damage, like Big Swan Boy, because, you know, he's got a bit of damage about him, damage resistance. Okay, enough practice. Let's have some fun. This one's loaded with the frag round, so aiming didn't seem necessary, so I've just chucked on some iron sights. But, you know, to reel in that spread a little bit when we're shooting it like that, we may as well do that. And just to, you know, make the point that I'm extra lazy, I'm just going to sit back and shoot this thing with the frag. Now, what's kind of weird about this is it seems that all of the projectiles seem to be exploding, and it's not like a 12-gauge frag round would be like in Battlefield, where it just shoots that one big-ass frag thing. So, slightly more overpowered than what you'd think. Wow, he's not having a good time. That's 2 attacks that he whiffed on me, and that was like a double 5% chance to avoid all damage from the Unstoppables magazine. So, what is that? 0.5% times 0.5%? I don't even want to know about how lucky I was to get 2 hits against me like that. And a swing and a miss from old Deathclaw. Winter's too quick for his slow ass. And again. Oh, Deathclaws. You used to be a lot scarier back in New Vegas, but no. We've got a high agility stat here, and we can just step him. Also, Fallout 4 Winter looks so much better than 76 Winter. Just look at her. Okay, time to kill some raiders, because we're going to have a little bit of a warm-up before we go and kill the giant crabs. So we're going to use the one with the incendiary rounds, the Dragon's Breath, which is also fun for making things light up. But, you know, raiders, they're not going to do very well against me because they're all very low-level things, and they do low damage because I've got such a giant health bar. So, yeah, the headcanon here is that we just have energy shields, kind of like Halo, right? That's where you've got a display. You know, that's the energy your thing has, and if it runs out, the bullets get through and you die, right? And that's how it works. So that's how it makes sense for me, but mileage on that little explanation might vary. But the thing about this weapon is it's just going to kill everything super easily, and that might be a problem, and as well as other problems of whether it's lore-friendly if you care about that, which I guess is a valid concern if you're going for a specifically lore-friendly playthrough, but I don't know. There's a couple of things you can do to make this thing slightly better in terms of how it performs compared to the vanilla weapons in this game. You've always got the option to use the lesser receivers, but obviously the higher tier ones will always have the tactical rail and everything on them to make it, you know, look tactical and modernized and everything, which again is a lore problem in and of itself because it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the weapons in the game. But you can always use the damage slider to lower the damage if you feel like it's doing a little bit much to you, and you can always use external mods to, you know, change how much damage the enemies do to you, to figure out. Wow, he's He's walking through the water on fire, so this must be like napalm, right? Anyway, so this thing is automatic, which means it's burst fire and Vats, which is going to absolutely destroy this poor crabman. We can throw a critical in here just to really sink it home. So yeah, mileage may vary on how much you enjoy these mods if you don't. Is that like a constant stagger there? Wow, poor crab. He gives us one quick high five because we're stuck with the animation for the mysterious stranger, which you can't cancel out of. So don't pick that one for You Only Live Once, true nerd, because it will get you into trouble if you get it at a bad time, unless it clears out the last enemy, which, you know, potentially you could code it to not do if you wanted to modify how that works, but probably best off not using it. Anyways, so yeah, just switch the damage down if you feel like it's too much, change how much damage you do to enemies, but then again, you might disrupt the balance on already vanilla weapons if you do that. But yeah, if you're not feeling like this thing is good in your game, then don't download it. But if you are convinced by this thing's performance and what other weapons I've shown off from this pack so far, link will be in the description. If there's a Xbox version of this, I'll be sure to chuck that in as well. Thank you very much for watching, guys.